She divorced him thinking he was broke, not knowing he was a hidden billionaire her whole family would soon depend on. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more shocking stories. Naomi never imagined that the day she shoved the divorce papers into Kellich's hands would eventually become the worst decision she ever made. As she stood over him in their living room, arms folded, chin raised, she felt powerful, like she had finally taken control of her life after years of wasting time with a man she believed had no ambition. Kellich sat quietly on the couch, his calm face betraying nothing, but it was that very calmness that irritated her the most. "Sign, Kellich," she snapped. "I can't keep living like this. I want more. I deserve more." Kellich looked up at her with eyes that held pain he wasn't willing to show, and instead of arguing, instead of fighting for the marriage, he simply picked up the pen and signed. No drama. No begging. No negotiation. "I hope the world gives you everything you're searching for," he said softly, and Naomi scoffed, mistaking his tone for weakness. She stormed out with her suitcases, convinced she had escaped poverty, convinced a new boyfriend Tega with his loud lifestyle and borrowed luxury was the upgrade she needed. But what Naomi didn't know was that Kellich's silence was not weakness. His calmness was not poverty. His humility was not lack of ambition. She didn't know she wasn't just walking away from a marriage. She was walking away from a kingdom. Naomi moved back to her parents' cramped home, where her mother, Madame Agnes, welcomed her but also struggled to hide the financial strain the family was under. Her father's health had deteriorated, and her younger brother Chisholm was barely hanging on at his job at Balogun Holdings. Naomi assured them she had left Kellich because he had no future, and they sympathized. Meanwhile, Kellich vanished from the city, and everyone assumed heartbreak drove him into hiding. Naomi didn't know he had boarded a private jet the very next morning, headed to London, not to heal, but to finalize a multi-billion-dollar corporate acquisition. While Naomi scrolled Instagram and posted quotes like "Sometimes God separates you from people to bless you," Kellich sat in boardrooms across Europe, signing documents that would change his life forever. And yet, fate was already preparing something even bigger, something Naomi could never have prepared for. A storm she didn't see coming. A truth she wasn't ready for. And soon, very soon, her world would collide with the biggest secret of her life. Naomi tried to settle back into her parents' house, but the reality of their daily struggles hit her harder than she expected. Madame Agnes returned home exhausted every day from her long shifts at Balogun Holdings, a manufacturing company that had supported half a community for decades. Chisholm, her younger brother, worked there too, constantly terrified of losing his job because layoffs were happening quietly. Her father's medications were expensive, and without her mother's job and Chisholm's salary, the family would drown. Naomi tried helping, but she had no job, no savings, and no plan, just pride. Meanwhile, Tega, the man who encouraged her to leave her broke husband, kept showing up with flashy rentals, expensive meals he never paid for, and reckless advice like, "You need a soft life, babe. Don't stress. Just enjoy." Naomi clung to him, not knowing he was a walking disaster. Then one Thursday evening, everything changed. Madame Agnes stumbled into the house crying. "Balogun Holdings is collapsing," she said, dropping her handbag. "Mr. Balogun is sick in the hospital. The company is in debt. Layoffs are starting tomorrow." The room froze. Chisholm dropped the cup in his hand. Naomi's father asked, "What will we do now?" The company was not just an employer, it was their lifeline. Panic consumed the household. Naomi tried to encourage them, but even she felt hopeless. Days later, employees received another announcement. A mysterious billionaire had purchased Balogun Holdings entirely. Salaries resumed. Layoffs were paused. A massive restructuring began. "Who is he?" employees asked. HR refused to reveal the name. "The new owner wants a grand introduction," they said. "You'll meet him next month." Naomi didn't care, but she should have, because life had just folded itself into a loop, and destiny was whispering her ex-husband's name behind closed doors. Balogun Holdings buzzed with gossip for weeks. Workers whispered about the mysterious young billionaire who had saved the company. "They say he's soft-spoken," one woman told Madame Agnes. "They say he likes to blend in with workers to learn how the company really functions." Another worker claimed, "I heard he used to struggle. Someone said he understands poverty better than anyone. But the most chilling rumor came from the HR office. He looks familiar, like someone who has lived among us before. Naomi overheard these conversations when her mother returned home each evening. She laughed them off. Familiar how? Do you think your new billionaire knows you personally? She teased. But something bothered Madame Agnes. The way they describe him. Naomi, it feels like I've met him somewhere. Naomi brushed it aside and buried herself in her situationship with Tega, who kept promising her a soft life while cheating on her behind the scenes. Meanwhile, the date of the billionaire's arrival approached. The star prepared the company hall, decorated the stage, cleaned every corner, and practiced the anthem. Naomi's mother begged her to attend the event. Come and see the man who saved our family. But Naomi refused. She didn't care to see any billionaire. If only she knew how crucial her presence would have been. If only she knew the man they were describing was the same quiet soul she had discarded like trash. And sooner than she expected, the truth would hit her harder than anything she had ever faced. The day finally arrived. Workers dressed in their best clothes. The company hall filled with chatter and anticipation. Naomi's mother and brother sat in the front row. Everyone held their phones, ready to record their new savior. Then the hall fell silent. Heavy doors opened. Security walked in. And behind them, a tall, calm, familiar figure stepped gently into the room. People gasped. Chisholm's jaw dropped. Madame Agnes' heart almost stopped. She clutched her chest and whispered, Jesus Christ, that's Kelechi. Yes, Kelechi. The ex-husband Naomi threw away, walked in as a new multi-billionaire owner of the company her entire family depended on. He wore a simple suit, his aura quiet but powerful, his confidence subtle but commanding. He didn't walk like a man seeking revenge. He walked like a man who knew exactly who he was. Good morning, he said at the microphone, and even his voice carried authority now. My name is Kelechi Okafor, and I am honored to lead Balogun Holdings into a stronger future. Phones dropped. Mouths remained open. Chairs nearly fell. Workers exchanged looks filled with shock and disbelief. Madame Agnes trembled. Chisholm swallowed hard. Naomi wasn't there, but her name was already being whispered. Isn't this the man Naomi divorced? Jesus. She left a billionaire. God, what kind of mistake is this? And the moment the event ended, Madame Agnes marched out of the hall with shaking hands, dialing her daughter's number repeatedly. Naomi didn't pick up, and that was the worst mistake of her life. That evening, Naomi lay on her bed scrolling through Instagram when her mother burst into the room, panting like she had run a marathon. Naomi! Naomi, stand up. Naomi frowned. Mummy, what is it? Why are you shouting like, it's Kelechi? Naomi froze. What about Kelechi? He's a new owner, the billionaire who bought Balogun Holdings. Naomi's phone fell. Her heart slammed into her ribs. For a minute she couldn't breathe. Mom, what are you saying? Kelechi? My Kelechi. Yes, your ex-husband. The man you said had no ambition. He walked into the company today as a billionaire CEO. Naomi felt the world tilt. Every memory of him, his quiet nature, his humility, his gentle voice, flashed before her. She remembered how he never bragged, how he always listened, how he always believed in working silently. And now the truth slapped her across the face. Kelechi was never broke. He was never small. He was never a man without ambition. He was a billionaire in disguise. Naomi collapsed onto the floor, shaking. Oh God, what have I done? Meanwhile, across the city, Kelechi sat in his penthouse office, staring out of the window with calm, unreadable eyes. He wasn't thinking about Naomi. He had moved on, but fate had only just begun twisting the knife. And Naomi had no idea how deeply she was about to feel the consequences of the divorce she once celebrated. The morning after the shocking revelation, the Okafor household felt like a burial ground. Nobody ate. Nobody spoke. Madame Agnes kept pacing with her wrapper tied tightly around her chest, shaking her head every few seconds and mumbling, God, why do children not listen to their mothers? Chisholm stared at his sister in disbelief, unable to understand how she had once shared a bed with a whole billionaire without knowing. Naomi sat on the sofa like a ghost, her thoughts louder than her heartbeat. Every memory she had with Kelechi replayed in painful detail. The nights he stayed awake working, the quiet phone calls he took in the kitchen, the business proposals she mocked because she assumed they were fantasies, the trips he said he needed to take for meetings that she dismissed as time-wasting. Each moment returned with a new meaning, slicing her with regret. "What are we going to do now?" her father asked, worry thick in his voice. "Our jobs are in his hands." Naomi's stomach twisted. She had unintentionally placed her family under the authority of the man she broke. "Maybe he won't hold it against us," she whispered, though even she didn't believe her own words. Madame Agnes shot her a sharp look. "Naomi, you humiliated that man. You treated him like he was beneath you. You didn't just divorce him. You used your mouth to destroy him. And now his signature controls my salary, your father's benefits, your brother's future, everything." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "So what do I do, Mom? Go and beg him." "Beg?" her mother snapped. "Naomi, you won't even get close enough to breathe in his direction. Do you know the level he is now?" That sentence pierced her chest. Kelechi wasn't just wealthy. He was far gone, far above, far unreachable. And then the scariest thought hit her. What if Kelechi fired all of them because of her? The possibility shook her entire soul. She rushed to her room, slammed the door, and sobbed into a pillow. Meanwhile, miles away in his penthouse, Kelechi sat at his desk reviewing the company's restructuring plans with the same calmness that once frustrated her. The past was a closed book to him. Revenge wasn't on his mind. But destiny had already placed the pieces on the board, and whether he wanted it or not, the past and present were about to collide in ways no one could stop. The next day, Naomi woke up with a mission. She had to see Kelechi. Not because she expected reconciliation. She already knew that ship had sailed into another galaxy, but because she needed to protect her family. Their jobs, their income, their survival depended on the mercy of a man she broke. She dressed quickly, ignoring her mother's warnings, and headed straight to Balogun Holdings. When she arrived, the company atmosphere had completely transformed. New security, new staff uniforms, new gates, new systems. Everything screamed money and power. Naomi approached the front desk. "Good morning. My name is Naomi Okafor. I need to see the CEO." The receptionist gave her a polite smile. "The CEO is not seeing visitors today, or any day without a pre-approved appointment." Naomi swallowed. I know him personally." The receptionist chuckled softly. "Madam, everyone claims to know him personally." Naomi clenched her fist. "Please, just tell him Naomi is here. He'll know me." The receptionist typed the name, paused, looked up slowly. "I'm sorry. You are not on the approved visitors list." "What?" Naomi whispered. "Can you try again? Maybe you spelled it. Security." In seconds, a female security officer gently accompanied her back to the gate. Naomi felt like she was being escorted out of a palace she once lived in. She tried calling him next, her hand shaking. Number not reachable. She tried texting. Message not delivered. It felt like banging on the gates of heaven with no answer coming. She returned home defeated. But that night, something shook her even more. Madame Agnes walked into the living room and dropped a letter on the table. A letter every employee had received. Mandatory general staff meeting with the CEO, attendance required. The meeting was in 3 days. "This is where everything will be decided," her mother whispered. "Everything." Naomi didn't sleep that night. Her heart was already racing toward that meeting. When the day arrived, Balogun Holdings looked like a war front. Buses, bikes, cars, and hundreds of workers filled the compound. Everyone whispered, anticipating the moment Kelechi would address them again. Naomi dressed carefully, hoping to blend into the crowd, even though she wasn't an employee. She just needed to see him face to face. When she entered the hall, her mother grabbed her wrist. "What are you doing here? You'll embarrass us." "Mom, please, I need to see him." They didn't have time to argue because the hall fell silent. Security lined the stage. Cameras flashed. And Kelechi walked in. He looked even more composed than before, calm, powerful, and emotionally unreachable. Naomi froze. Her legs felt weak. Her breath caught in her chest. She had lived with him, slept beside him, fought with him, belittled him, but she had never seen him like this. He took the microphone. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Today, I want to assure all staff that your jobs are secure. No one will be laid off under my leadership." The whole erupted in applause. Chisholm sighed with relief. Madame Agnes wiped her eyes. But Naomi stood still, watching Kelechi with a pain so sharp it felt physical. She had left this man believing he had nothing. Yet here he stood, saving hundreds of families, including hers. Then something happened that made Naomi's heart collapse entirely. After the speech, Kelechi stepped off the stage and began shaking hands with staff, listening to their concerns, speaking softly to them with the same gentleness he once showed Naomi, except this time, she wasn't included. He walked past her without even noticing she existed. She whispered his name, Kelechi. He did not turn. That moment broke something in her soul. Because for the first time, she realized something far worse than losing him. She had become invisible to a man she once took for granted. After the meeting, staff crowded around Kelechi for questions. Naomi pushed through the crowd, ignoring her mother's attempts to stop her. She had to speak to him. If she failed today, she might never get another chance. She reached the front of the crowd just as his assistant, Aisha, approached him with documents. Naomi stepped forward. "Kelechi, please, can we talk?" Silence fell around them. Workers turned. This was drama they didn't expect. Kelechi lifted his eyes slowly, and for the first time since they divorced, their eyes met. Naomi felt her heart implode. Those eyes were different now. Sharper, colder, older. He didn't look angry. He looked like someone who had moved so far ahead that she no longer existed in the rear view. "Naomi," he said, voice low but emotionless. Aisha glanced at Naomi with curiosity. Naomi took a shaky breath. "Can we talk privately?" Kelechi closed the folder in his hand, not breaking eye contact. "About what?" "About us." A faint, mirthless smile curved his lips. "There is no us to discuss." Naomi's voice shook. "Kelechi, please." Aisha stepped in gently. "Sir, you have a board call in 5 minutes." Kelechi nodded. "Yes, let's go." He walked around Naomi like she was a chair in his path, not even a person. Staff murmured. Naomi felt humiliation burn her skin. She moved after him on impulse, grabbing his sleeve lightly. "Kelechi, I'm begging you." He paused, not for her, but because security approached instantly. He turned his head slightly and said quietly, "Naomi, please don't do this. Not here." It wasn't anger. It was dismissal. The kind that said, "You are chapter 1 have already closed." Naomi's hand fell away slowly. He walked out of the hall. And just like that, she lost him again. But this time, forever felt real. Naomi left the company building feeling like her soul had been ripped out through her chest. She didn't go home. She wandered the streets aimlessly, replaying every word Kelechi had said, every moment he had ignored her, every second he treated her like a stranger. She realized something brutal. Kelechi didn't hate her. Hate would have meant she still mattered. But she didn't. Not anymore. She went to a quiet park, sat on a bench, and finally let herself cry. All the pride she used to carry dissolved into the grass. "How did I lose him?" she whispered to herself. "How did I not see who he was?" The memories came painfully. The nights he stayed up studying business models, the mornings he left early for meetings, the emails she mocked, the dreams she laughed at, the patience he always had with her. She had taken all that goodness and stabbed it with impatience and arrogance. Now he didn't even see her. Back at home, Madame Agnes and Chisholm waited anxiously. When she walked in with swollen eyes, her mother simply hugged her. Naomi finally broke down completely. "Mummy, he doesn't want to talk to me." "My daughter," her mother whispered. "Why would he?" "You hurt him deeply, and he has found peace." Naomi collapsed to the floor, sobbing. I didn't know who he truly was. That's a problem," Madame Agnes said softly. "You wanted a man who shouted his worth. You didn't know the value of a man who builds in silence." Those words stabbed Naomi more than anything. That night, she cried again, alone, replaying every red flag she ignored, every blessing she rejected, every warning she dismissed. Meanwhile, in his penthouse, Kelechi sat alone at his glass dining table, reviewing 3 major contracts. He paused for a moment, remembering the look on Naomi's face earlier, but only for a second. Then he refocused. His life had moved on. Naomi's chapter had ended. But fate wasn't done with either of them yet. And the next twist would shake everyone involved. In the days following the meeting, Naomi convinced herself that maybe Kelechi's coldness was just shock, that maybe after some time he would soften and allow her to talk to him properly. But reality slapped her again when news spread through the company that Chisholm had made a serious mistake in the warehouse records, the kind that usually got workers fired instantly. Naomi panicked when her brother came home trembling, holding a query letter. "Naomi, I'm finished. They will sack me tomorrow." Their mother nearly fainted. The family sat in silence, trying to figure out what to do when suddenly, the next morning, Chisholm returned with a stunned expression. They canceled the query. "What?" Naomi stood up instantly. "How?" HR said the CEO intervened personally. He said, "I'm a young man who deserves another chance." Naomi's heart tightened painfully. That was exactly the kind of man Kelechi had always been. Gentle, patient, merciful. She realized that he had saved her brother, not because of her, but despite her. He didn't punish her family for her mistakes. He didn't take revenge. And that hurt her more than anger ever could. She waited by the window the whole evening, hoping he might pass by the neighborhood. He didn't. Instead, she sat there crying silently, knowing he still had a good heart, but it was a heart she no longer had access to. Meanwhile, in his office, Kelechi simply signed the paper and moved on, not even connecting Chisholm's name to Naomi emotionally. To him, it was just the right thing to do. To Naomi, it was another knife twisting deeper, reminding her of everything she lost. As if Naomi's life wasn't already collapsing, fate wasn't done exposing her mistakes. One afternoon, Tega came to pick her up, acting strangely impatient. He seemed distracted, irritated, barely listening to anything she said. They got to his apartment, and as she sat on his couch, his phone rang. He stepped outside to take the call, and Naomi absent-mindedly glanced at the phone screen he left unlocked. The caller ID read, "Sweetheart Red Hot Hash." Her body froze. Curiosity took hold, pushing her to scroll through his messages. What she saw shattered her. Dozens of messages from different women. Voice notes, pictures, plans, lies, conversations mocking her. Naomi is too emotional. She thinks I love her. Once she stabilizes after the divorce, I'll move on. She should be grateful I even spend time with her. The room spun violently. When Tega walked back in, she threw the phone at him. "So this is who you are." Instead of apologizing, he scoffed. "Naomi, why are you acting surprised? You were too desperate after leaving that quiet fool." "That quiet fool is a billionaire," Naomi snapped. His laugh stopped abruptly. "What did you say?" "Kelechi, my ex-husband. He owns Balogun Holdings now. He's worth more than you can ever imagine." Tega's face changed instantly. Greed flashed in his eyes. "Wow. Naomi, maybe you should go and reconcile. You know, get back in the mansion life." Naomi stepped back, disgusted. "You don't love me." "Love?" He laughed darkly. "Who is talking about love? I just want to eat. If reconnecting with him benefits both of us, then..." Slap. Naomi's palm connected with his cheek before she even realized she moved. Tega grabbed her wrist in anger. "Get out of my house." She didn't argue. She left trembling, humiliated, exposed. On her way home, the truth hit her like thunder. She had left a good man for a clown who saw her as a stepping stone. Her eyes filled with tears. God, what did I do to myself? But there was no undoing the damage. Not anymore. Madame Agnes was a prideful woman, but desperation humbled even the strongest. One morning, after praying for hours, she wore her best wrapper and headed straight to Balogun Holdings. Naomi begged her not to go. "Mummy, please, he won't want to see you." "I don't need him to want to see me," her mother said. "I need to protect my family." After a long wait at the reception, Aisha, the assistant, approached politely. The CEO is extremely busy. Tell him it's his former mother-in-law, Madame Agnes said boldly. That name clearly held weight, because minutes later, Kelechi agreed to see her. When she entered his office, she nearly broke down at the sight of him. Calm, composed, powerful, a man transformed. "Good afternoon, Ma," he said respectfully. That shook her. He still had manners. He still had humility. "Kelechi," she began, voice trembling. "I came, not for Naomi, but for my family." He nodded gently. "I know." She placed her hands together. "Please, whatever Naomi did to hurt you, forgive her. Don't punish Chisholm or my husband. They didn't wrong you." Kelechi sighed softly. "Ma, I have no intention of hurting your family. Whatever happened between Naomi and me ended the day she left. I moved forward. I hold no grudge." Tears ran down Madame Agnes' face. "Thank you. You're a good man, and I am sorry she didn't see your worth." Kelechi gave a small, sad smile. Sometimes people can't recognize gold when it's covered in dust. Madame Agnes left the office in tears, grateful, relieved, but heartbroken for her daughter. She knew Naomi could never get him back. He wasn't just gone. He had outgrown her completely. News of her mother's visit hit Naomi like cold water. She felt shame mixed with a tiny spark of relief that he wasn't planning to destroy her family. But she still needed closure, or maybe hope. She waited outside his office building for hours, sitting on a bench in the parking lot, refusing to leave. When Kelechi finally walked out late in the evening, he paused when he saw her. She stood up slowly. "Please," she said, voice shaking. "Just 5 minutes." He studied her quietly. Then he nodded. 5 minutes. They sat in the building's quiet lobby. Naomi held her hands tightly. "I'm not here to ask for anything. I just want to apologize." Kelechi's face remained unreadable. Naomi continued, tears streaming. "I judged you wrongly. I thought being loud meant being successful. I thought humility meant weakness. I didn't know who you were. I didn't understand your silence. I didn't respect your dreams. And I'm sorry for everything." Kelechi looked at her with calm eyes, the same eyes she once ignored. "Naomi, I don't hate you. I never did. But what we had, it died long before the divorce. You didn't believe in me. You didn't see me. You didn't choose me. And now, we are on different paths." Her voice cracked. "Can we ever find our way back?" He shook his head gently. "No. Some things are better left in the past." That broke her completely. But he wasn't done. "I will continue supporting your family. But you and I are done." He stood. She stayed seated, weak, shattered, watching the man she once dismissed walk away, this time forever. Naomi returned home with a silence so heavy her mother instantly knew the conversation had ended any hope. She went straight to her room, collapsed on her bed, and cried until her chest hurt. She wasn't crying because he rejected her. She was crying because she finally understood the true weight of her loss. She had thrown away a man who loved deeply, worked silently, dreamed big, and rose high. She had traded gold for glitter, and the glitter had turned to dust. That evening, as she watched her family happily discussing the company recovery Kelechi provided, she realized something crushing. Her family was now being blessed by the same man she broke, a man who no longer wanted her. Naomi had to swallow the bitter truth that Kelechi was her past, but he was her family's future. She watched them smile with hope while she stayed in the shadows, suffocating silently with regret. And as the night deepened, she whispered to herself, "I lost the best man I ever had, and it is my fault." But fate had not finished shaping the final chapters. The end would soon reveal a truth even deeper, that Kelechi's rise was only the beginning of Naomi's awakening. Weeks passed, and Naomi did everything she could to stay away from Kelechi's orbit, not because she didn't long for him, but because she couldn't bear the humiliation of seeing him move in a world she no longer belonged to. Yet fate had a cool sense of timing. One Thursday afternoon, while waiting for her mother outside the company gates, Naomi saw something that shattered her last fragile piece of hope. A sleek black SUV rolled into the compound. The door opened. Aisha, Kelechi's assistant, stepped out. She walked to the other side and opened the passenger door. A woman stepped out. Tall, elegant, dark-skinned, dressed in a simple but expensive gown. Her presence was commanding yet graceful. And then Kelechi stepped out of the building to welcome her personally. Naomi's breath hitched. He smiled, really smiled, something he had not done once with her since he returned. The woman laughed softly, placing her hand lightly on his arm. The body language was subtle, but unmistakable. They walked into the building together, talking with ease, familiarity, warmth. Naomi felt her knees weaken. Her mother approached and caught her expression. "Naomi, what is it?" Naomi whispered, "Mummy is seeing someone." Madame Agnes followed her gaze. She saw them. She sighed deeply. "My daughter, a man like that will not remain alone forever." "But it's too soon," Naomi whispered, trembling. Her mother looked at her with firm compassion. "No, it's too late." Naomi felt her heart crumble into dust. She realized then that the universe had moved forward with Kelechi and left her behind permanently. She walked home that day numb, silent, hollow, and somewhere deep inside, she finally accepted the truth she had avoided from day one. Kelechi was never Hayes to keep. She was simply not the woman meant to rise with him. 2 days later, Madame Agnes received a formal message from the company. The CEO requested the presence of the Okafor family for a private meeting. Naomi panicked immediately. "Mummy, is he going to fire you? Or Chisholm?" "He already said he wouldn't," her mother replied, though fear still lived in her eyes. Her father adjusted his shirt collar nervously. Chisholm kept pacing. Naomi felt her stomach tightening into a knot as they arrived at the company. They were directed to a private conference room. Then the door opened. Kelechi stepped in with the same calm dignity he now carried like a second skin. Everyone stood. He greeted each of them warmly, except Naomi. Not rudeness, not malice, just quiet distance. "He Saturday, I invited you because your family has served this company faithfully for years," he said, "and I want to reassure you that your future here is stable." Relief washed over the room like rainfall. Naomi's father wiped his forehead. Chisholm exhaled shakily. Madame Agnes thanked him repeatedly. Naomi watched him, her heart breaking because she was witnessing the level of man he had always been, loyal, compassionate, honorable, qualities she never appreciated until it was too late. Then Kelechi turned to Mr. Okafor. "Sir, we're creating a new role for retirees, a consultant position. Your experience will be valuable. The pay will be more than your old salary." Her father broke into tears. Thank you, my son." Then Kelechi turned to Chisholm. "I've transferred you to a department where you can grow. I believe in second chances." Chisholm almost knelt in gratitude. Naomi felt her chest tighten painfully. He was blessing everyone around her, except her, and that hurt more than hatred ever could. After the meeting, as they left the room, Naomi lingered behind. She hoped he would say something to her privately. He didn't. He simply nodded respectfully and walked out. And that was when it sunk in. Kelechi was saving her family, but he had no intention of saving her. Naomi couldn't take it anymore. She had to speak to him one last time, not to win him back, but to free herself from the heavy guilt sitting on her heart like a stone. That evening, she returned to the company building and waited in the lobby until nearly midnight. Eventually, Kelechi walked out with his briefcase, surprised to see her. "Naomi, please," she said softly, "just hear me out." He hesitated, then nodded. They stood in the dimly lit lobby, the air thick with memories and distance. Naomi spoke first, her voice breaking. "I don't want to disturb your life. I know you've moved on. I know I have no place there anymore. But I need to say this before life separates us completely." He said nothing. She swallowed. "Thank you for helping my family. You didn't have to. You owe us nothing. But you still chose kindness." Kelechi looked at her gently. "Your family was never the problem, Naomi." Tears rolled down her cheeks. I know I hurt you. I know I judged you wrongly. I thought being loud meant being successful. I thought you were small because you didn't show off. I didn't understand you. And I'm sorry." Silence. She took a shaky breath. I am happy you're doing well. Truly, even if it hurts, I'm grateful God bless you. Kelechi finally responded, Naomi, you are not a bad person. You just didn't see life the way I did. We wanted different things. It wasn't going to work. She bit her lip, trying not to sob. If I had known who you really were, that's the point, he said gently. You were meant to love me for who I was and not for who I am now. Naomi's heart split cleanly in half. She nodded slowly. You're right. Kelechi picked up his briefcase. I wish you peace, Naomi. Truly. And then he walked out of the building. Walked out of her sight. Walked out of her life. That was the last real conversation they ever had. And for the first time, Naomi felt a strange sense of closure. Painful, but necessary. The kind that comes when a door closes and locks forever. In the following months, the Okafor family flourished under Kelechi's leadership. Madam Agnes received a promotion. Chisholm found a mentor and became one of the youngest supervisors. Mr. Okafor's medical bills were paid through the company's new welfare initiative, another silent decision Kelechi made. Every blessing he provided was a reminder of the man Naomi had thrown away. But he never contacted her again, never asked for her, never looked for her. He simply respected the boundary he drew. Naomi watched from the sidelines as her family enjoyed a stability they hadn't known in years, all thanks to a man she could no longer reach. At home, her mother often prayed for Kelechi. Her father called him a son. Chisholm admired him openly. Naomi smiled when they praised him, but inside, her heart tightened with regret. Not because he owed her anything, but because she finally understood the truth. She wasn't meant to be part of his destiny. She was meant to be the lesson before the blessing. One evening, Naomi stood outside on the balcony as a cool breeze brushed over her skin. She watched the city lights flicker and thought about how life had humbled her. She had learned the hard way that real wealth was not noise. Real ambition was not arrogance. Real men didn't need to shout. Kelechi's silence had meant strength all along, and she had misread it completely. She whispered to the night, If I ever love again, let me never make the same mistake. And for the first time, she meant it. A full year passed. Naomi rebuilt herself slowly, not through men or romantic fantasies or shortcuts, but through hard work and humility. She got a job as an administrative assistant. She saved. She learned. She matured. One afternoon, she attended a charity event her company partnered in, and that was where she saw him again. Kelechi. He was giving a donation to the children's hospital. The elegant woman from before stood beside him, now clearly his partner. They looked happy, strong, purposeful. Naomi didn't approach them. She didn't need to. She simply watched from afar with a soft smile, surprising even herself. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't hopeful either. She was simply grateful. Grateful life had shown her the truth. Grateful she had learned her lesson. Grateful she had been allowed to grow. As he walked past her on his way out, their eyes met briefly. This time, there was no pain, no longing, no bitterness, just mutual respect. A silent acknowledgement of a chapter closed. He nodded slightly. She nodded back. That was enough. Naomi turned away with a deep exhale and whispered, Thank you for everything, even the pain. And for the first time in a long time, she stepped forward, not looking backward, not drowning in regret, but walking into a future she was finally ready to build for herself. The story did not end with her winning him back. It ended with something better, her winning herself back.